Hey, toy collectors and toy fans of all ages. Scott ToyGuru Neitlich here, your host on the Spectre Creative Channel. I've been in the toy industry for about 25 years, but I'm also a collector and a parent. And those things all together have given me a unique perspective on the industry. So this video is a bit of a follow-up to some recent videos I've done about the toy aisle and toy placement and empty pegs. It's basically going to address the why of the toy aisle. Why do toy aisles exist? Well, first off, we should define kind of what the toy aisle is. So we're talking about big box stores here. We're talking about Meijer, Fred Meyer, Big Lots, Target, Walmart. Think stores that carry lots and lots of different aisles that essentially cater to more or less any need you would have. I mean, maybe not refrigerators or new cars, but you could pretty much get anything in a big box store. Now, the planogram I just showed you for Target is pretty universal. Almost all Targets are laid out exactly the same. Walmart, on the other hand, which is, I guess Target and Walmart are each other's biggest competitors, Walmart has a lot of different floor plans, depending on the size of the store, which is why not every Walmart has a toy aisle or has the same size of a toy aisle. You'll find some Walmarts with huge toy aisles. You'll find some Walmarts that barely have a toy aisle at all, as opposed to Target that's pretty standard. So that answers kind of, I get that question a lot, why not every Walmart has the exact same toy aisle as others. But that doesn't address the question of why the toy aisle exists. I mean, obviously, it's something that people want to buy, right? I mean, just like they would want to buy scented candles or paper goods or apples or school supplies, clothing, anything. Now, for us, the adult collector, and I include myself in that, action figures and being able to display them is a huge part of our life. These are, for a lot of us, like our main hobby, our reason for our biggest enjoyment. We get such an emotional thrill out of collecting and displaying action figures. Now, that's why I'm going to ask you to make a ontological shift. You're like, wait a minute, what the heck is an ontological shift, Scott? What are you, like a PhD now? No. But it is one of my favorite kind of concepts. A ontological shift is when you had one idea which is then replaced by another which counters the way you used to look at the world. So, as an example that may be easy to understand, you guys remember this guy, right? From the Matrix, Neo, the One. Well, this scene in the movie in particular, the soundtrack to this scene, the score, is actually called Ontological Shift, the track that plays over this moment in the film. It's the moment when Neo realizes he is the One because he loves Trinity. That's a whole other YouTube video altogether. But the point is, this is the moment in the film when Neo has a ontological shift and realizes everything he thought about the world is not true. And he accepts that he is the One, meaning he has the ability to control and reshape the Matrix. And he starts seeing the world like this. He sees the world in Matrix code, as opposed to seeing the world as the machines, wanted people to, which was an illusion, if you will. So that's what an ontological shift is. It's, in other terms, it's something like learning that the deity behind your religion is not actually true, and your religion is false, or aliens actually exist. Things where sort of everything you thought about the world suddenly changes, and you kind of have to struggle with the new information conflicting with the way that you view the world. So with that in mind, what's the ontological shift with toys? Well, this kind of goes into why toy aisles exist. Birthday gifts. Birthday gifts for your child's friends. That's why the toy aisle exists. I mean, yes, you're going to have things like the holidays, where people buy lots of toys and lots of gifts for their own children, and even friends' children and friends of friends, and et cetera, et cetera. But this only happens once a year, unless you're in a time loop or something like that. Birthdays also, your own birthday, or really your child's own birthday, also only once a year. This is not an event that happens over and over again, causing you to go to the toy aisle again and again. Whereas you have, one child, 2 or 3 children. I mean, I know some people have 9 children. Your child probably has somewhere between 10 to 30 friends or classmates in their classroom, which means that 10 to 20, 30 times a year, you need to go buy a gift for one of these kids. Now, you're mainly going to go to a big box store to load up on your basics, the things that you need every single week. And, you look at your average cart try this the next time you go to a big box store. Look in other people's carts. I mean, don't be weird about it, but just take a glance. And I bet you will see very few toys in those carts. The time when most customers go to the toy aisle is because they need to buy a gift for an upcoming birthday party, a neighbor, friend's, birthday for their child. Adult collectors, and again, I include myself in this, we go every day or, a couple times a week to the toy aisle looking for the latest case pack. For standard customers, they go a couple times a year. And that's why the toy aisle exists. It's a convenience for them for those, say, 10 to 30 times a year that they need to buy a gift for a friend's birthday, a child's friend's birthday. Collectors are always just gravy on top of these purchases. It's great to get collectors, but there's just not enough of us, if you will, to justify the aisle. The aisle exists as a convenience for buying toys, and the most often purchased toy is for a birthday, for a child's friend. And if you look at some action figure lines from the past that collectors just loved and really gravitated to, but didn't continue, it's because kids didn't get into the line. Collectors alone weren't enough. I mean, there's obviously other factors. I mean, the entertainment may not have hit as well as expected, but collectors, especially in our minds, sort of should have been enough to keep this going. Yet lines like, Motu 2000X or the Indiana Jones line that Hasbro put out, or also like Game of Thrones is a great example. Multiple companies have put out action figures, including Funko and McFarlane, but the entertainment in this case was not aimed at kids. It was R-rated, so kids were not watching this, or gosh, at least I hope children were not watching this. There's way too much violence and nudity. So it's a perfect example where, collectors, of course, wanted to get these, but the collector audience alone isn't enough to keep them. It's why these waves never went past like 1 or 2 releases. And yes, I know the ending was not the greatest thing ever. But when these figures were released, it was still in the middle of the run, and the show was the biggest thing ever, especially with sci-fi fantasy geeks wanting to buy toys. So without the child purchase, meaning a gift giver parent buying a gift for their child's friend's birthday, it's hard to keep the turns going in the toy aisle. So when you look at releases, again, that we see as for collectors, like a great example is Masters of the Universe Origins, which we're all going gaga over online, which is great, and it's wonderful that adult collectors are buying this. But much like 2000X, unless kids come into it, it makes it tough to keep going. And I know everyone said, well, wait a minute, but I see empty displays, and they're flying off the pegs. This is proof that this is the hottest toy line ever, and it's going to go for years. What I would say to that is just take a step back and realize we're still in the initial release time frame. These figures have more or less just hit. I mean, I know they've been out for 2 months now? August, September. I'm recording this video at the end of September 2020. So, they've been out for about 60 days, maybe 90 days. We are still in the very, very beginning of the release. And that means we're still at the time period when just collectors are basically buying this. Collectors, when I say things that, they represent 20% of the purchase, the same thing applies to G.I. Joe classified series. These are just now hitting. So people saying, oh, I can barely find them on pegs, or, the scalpers are selling them for huge prices on eBay in the secondary market. That's proof that, this line is doing fantastic. I'm not saying these lines aren't selling well. I've actually heard the G.I. Joe line is selling above expectations. But again, part of that ontological shift is that the 20% of the line that collectors buy, collectors, and again, myself included, we are like vultures. We swoop in for the kill. The 20% that we're buying is the first 20%. And we're still there with lines like Origins and Classified series. These toy lines are so new that 20% of the product run hasn't even shipped yet. And collectors, the 20% collectors buy, is the first 20%. And we're still there. It takes several months. It could take up to 6 months to get to the other 80%. So collectors need to get their fill first. But once they do, if kids don't come in and buy that back end 80%, that's where you have toy lines going away. And that is why we have toy aisles in big box stores, to sell toys to kids and, collectors for gravy. I hope this video answered a lot of the questions. A lot of these come up in the comments because I read the comments and I try to reply to all the comments. I still have a bit of a backlog. But please leave some. Give a subscription and a like. It helps this video get circulated by YouTube. And see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.